Hello, and welcome to something that's a bit different from what I usually make on this channel. So recently it has come to my attention that there is a cartoon YouTuber by the name of A.S.K. No, I have no idea what the A.S.K stands for, and I know nothing about this channel. I've never heard of this channel before in my life. I'm not a former fan of this channel or anything like that. And recently, A.S.K over here put out a video titled "Modern Reboots Are Unfaithful Garbage" or something along those lines. A video that's garnered quite a bit of backlash within the animation community, as several other cartoon YouTubers have made videos criticizing this video. And so I figure I might as well make my own video talking about it while it's still fresh. Why the hell not? So before we actually jump into this video, it's worth noting that this video heavily focuses specifically on that new Fairly OddParents show that came out earlier this year. A big source of criticism for the video comes from how A.S.K interprets this revival of the Fairly OddParents. And I've got to admit that I have yet to watch this show. I don't know. I've heard this show is actually really good, which is genuinely surprising to me, but you know, hey, at least that it's good. It's not a nostalgia cash grab like a lot of other cartoon revivals and whatever. So I'll give it that, but I haven't watched it, so I can't say like for sure the way like he interprets this show. But there are definitely other things in this video that I want to talk about, so without further ado, let us talk about them. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing, as it would be greatly appreciated. And with all of that said, let us dive in.
So the other day I had an epiphany. I was scrolling mindlessly through my phone as one does, and I came across this monstrosity, the Fairly OddParents reboot, and it was just as bad as I expected it to be. Mindless drivel plot lines, flashy art style, and an overt unfaithfulness to the source material.
Again, as I mentioned before, I have never seen this show, so I cannot verify if any of this is true. I would say something along the lines of, given how everyone else loves this show and they've been defending it in response to this video, I'd say it's not true, but nah, I'd rather be more fair and form my own opinion. It doesn't feel right for me to talk about what he thinks of this Fairly OddParents revival if I've never even seen the Fairly OddParents revival. If I was more familiar with it, if I've seen it, then yeah, it would be a lot more fair for me to talk about it. But alas, I've yet to watch it.
And I realized, these phenomena are not unique to the Fairly OddParents. These symptoms carry on to many remakes and reboots that have sprouted from Hollywood in the last few years, whether it's animated or live action, movie or TV show. And if this were just a one-off thing in media, I probably wouldn't be making this video, but this is a repeated cancer that is spreading to more and more properties, and is only destructive in nature. And so I gotta take the mantle and expose just what makes these properties so inherently bad. Let's go.
Something that I really hate to admit, and I really hope this doesn't come off as like, oh, I'm defending this guy, I think he's right, because that's not the case at all. But I kind of agree with him with the whole thing of like, Hollywood doesn't want to do anything new or original anymore. We've just been getting constant remakes and reboots and revivals and whatever, sequels, stuff like that. Mainly because it's the safe option, it's the safe thing to do. I've made numerous videos touching upon this topic before, going over my frustration with how movies are nowadays. The fact that like there's nothing original coming out now. Why waste your time creating something new and innovative when you could just rehash old shit for easy nostalgia money? So yeah, the basic idea of this video of like Hollywood doesn't want to be original anymore, we get no original cartoons anymore, it's just nothing but reboots and whatever, I agree with. The problem comes with his reasoning, and I genuinely hope that the negative reception this video has received won't give people the wrong idea that like if you criticize the current state of cinema, if you criticize the large amount of sequels and remakes and whatever, if you criticize the large amount of TV show reboots, then you're like anti-woke or whatever. There you go, I just spoiled why the video is hated. Sorry for that. I really hope that doesn't end up being the case, because I've gone on before about like, this is a valid issue to have. This is a valid reason as to why movies suck nowadays, and people are gonna like misinterpret it as being like, oh, you think it's bad because of wokeness, and it's like, no, I hate it because it just shows how lazy everything is nowadays. saying Hollywood is unoriginal nowadays and it's bad because of that should be like a unanimous opinion. Unfortunately though, that doesn't seem to be the case.
It was originally the Fairly OddParents trash reboot #1 that inspired me to make this video, but now they went and made another one. And when it's animated, that's where I draw the line. I'm old enough to remember back in Yale 2016 when everyone was trashing the new reboot at the time, Teen Titans Go. Then it was the Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10 reboot, Rise of TMNT, the list goes on.
Again, I cannot 100% verify this myself because I've never seen it, but isn't Rise of the TMNT a really good show? What the hell are you putting it alongside 3 shows that people genuinely hated back then? Maybe back when it first premiered there were a few people that didn't like it, but I think more people liked it than disliked it at the time. And over the years, the show has garnered a much bigger cult fan base, so now it's generally agreed to be a good show that deserved better. I don't know what the hell you're on that this show is bad, but okay, sure.
No one really respects reboots as an inherent property, especially in the manner that they're handled in our modern era. It's almost a safe opinion these days to say, ooh, Hollywood unoriginal, Hollywood bad. But when you take a deeper look at it, you realize it's not just about the unoriginality. These Disney reboots do more than just rip off the original for monetary gain. No, no, no. They actively disrespect the source material while they do it.
Oh my god, bro, I knew he was gonna bring this up. Guys, guess what? Girl doesn't like old movie. Can you believe that, guys? Girl doesn't like old movie. How dare she? How dare girl not like old movie? Does girl not know that old movie is historically important and therefore that somehow makes it immune to any and all criticism? How dare she? Has she no shame? Seriously. I hate how hard it is to criticize this legitimately terrible movie and just Disney in general because people choose to hate on it for the most idiotic reasons you could possibly think of. I think Snow White is going to be a terrible movie. It has nothing to do with wokeness. It has nothing to do with girl not liking old movie. It has everything to do with how creatively bankrupt Hollywood is nowadays and the fact that the movie just genuinely looks like generic slop. I've gone on before about this numerous times, but every time I get reminded of it, I have to bring it up again. I hate having to talk about why Disney is bad nowadays, because it's like, there are genuine, valid, justified reasons to hate Disney, but then a lot of people would rather hate on them for the stupidest reasons you could possibly think of, and they're the ones that get more attention over the people that hate them for actually good reasons. You know, Disney has donated to Israel. Disney has contributed to the suffering of thousands and thousands of Palestinians, but nah, who cares about that? Girl doesn't like old movie, therefore Disney is bad because of that. How dare they? You know that whole lawsuit thing that's been going on recently, where it's like someone's wife died at a restaurant in a Disney park, and so like the guy is trying to sue Disney, and Disney's like, nuh-uh, you can't sue us because you have Disney Plus. And it's like, it just shows you how dystopian everything is nowadays. The fact that something like this could just happen. I believe very recently they retracted that whole thing, and I think they're gonna like allow the lawsuit to happen. But it's very clearly just damage control. They're only doing it because they received backlash for doing it in the first place, when they should have just never done it in the first place at all. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone talk about that at all, but you know what I've seen a lot of people criticize Disney for? Girl not liking old movie. The most nothing burger news you could possibly think of, and that's getting more attention from people than actually important stuff, actually important reasons to hate Disney. And it pisses me off, seriously. If Disney was smart, they would cancel this movie for their own good. I don't care about the hard work and effort and whatever that's going into this movie. I don't care about that. That doesn't mean anything. I know it's wrong to say that I want a movie to be canceled, but in this instance, I think it would greatly benefit everyone. I fail to see a single person that would look at the cancellation of this movie as a bad thing. Disney's reputation would improve a little bit. The most annoying people in the world would finally shut up. Another animated Disney movie would be spared from the live-action desecration that's been going on, I fail to see how it would be a bad thing that this movie gets canceled. I don't care about the hard work and effort that's being put into this movie. That doesn't automatically make it good. Yes, it sucks that the hard work and effort would be wasted, but you could say the same thing for a lot of other canceled movies. For every movie in existence that's ever been canceled, and that's not going to change the fact that they were canceled. It also doesn't mean that the final product is going to be good just because people put time and effort into making it. If I watch a movie and I think it's the worst piece of movie I've ever seen in my life, I'm not going to give it brownie points because, oh, people put time and effort into making it, as if that somehow makes the movie good now all of a sudden. Like, no, that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that at all. It's so hard to, like, criticize this movie. It's like, I don't like this movie. I don't think this movie is going to be good. And then I have to carefully tread around to make sure people won't assume that I'm anti-woke or whatever, that I'm gonna complain about girl not liking old movie, nothing like that at all. Disney could do the most awful, inhumane thing you could possibly think of, and people would ignore it and instead hate on them because a girl doesn't like old movie. What a joke of a world we live in, seriously. Only in 2024, man. Only in 2024.
They have to warp the brand to their liking, whether it's for monetary, social, or storytelling purposes, if you really want to give them that credit. This Teen Titans Go syndrome has only gotten worse nowadays, because instead of just telling unfunny stories, modern reboots, especially in the animated realm, aim to purposely disrespect the original vision. Starting off with the fact that the original creators don't want this kind of stuff, almost ever. We've all heard of how Stephen Hillenburg never really wanted a reboot of SpongeBob, but ever since his late passing, Nick has capitalized on two already, with both thankfully pulling in little to no rating.
Jesus Christ, everyone, we've just been getting spoiled non-stop throughout this video. First we got Girl Doesn't Like Old Movie, and now we got Stephen Hillenburg never wanted SpongeBob spin-offs, or reboots as he calls it. A 2-for-1 combo, just like that. Christmas came early for us, boys. Christmas came early. Oh yeah, it's been debunked a lot of times that, like, Steven didn't want spin-offs. There are people that are actually, like, close to Steven that claim that, like, he was aware of Camp Coral before he died, and, like, he approved of it. And, like, these are people that are actually close to Steven, people that actually knew him, and not random strangers on the internet. And I see literally no reason as to why they would lie about, oh yeah, Steven knew about Camp Coral, he approved of it. Of course, though, that doesn't mean that these shows are good. Again, there are reasons as to why these shows are bad. I'm sure Camp Coral is a bad show, but it has nothing to do with Stephen Hillenburg. I watched that Sandy Cheeks movie that came out recently. I want to make a video on it soon, but I think it's a terrible movie, and it has nothing to do with Stephen Hillenburg. If Stephen Hillenburg was alive and he was heavily involved with this movie, it would still be garbage, most likely. And even then, with all of the that Nickelodeon has been exposed for this year, I think disrespecting Stephen Hillenburg's wishes should be the least of our problems with Nickelodeon. Again, as I said before, there are valid reasons to hate certain things, but people would rather hate on them for the stupidest reasons. And while we're on that topic, some of these people included here are, very problematic to say the least. Like, what the hell you got John K over here for? Disrespecting John K's wishes. Bro, John K disrespected his own wishes. What the hell are you on about? I remember reading something that, like, when he was working on Ren and Stimpy, the original show on Nickelodeon, there were, like, regulations. Like, he was limited as to what he could put into the show. And then he got fired from Nickelodeon, and then years later he would make Adult Party cartoon, and it's like, when he made Adult Party cartoon, he didn't have those limitations, he didn't have those regulations, he could just freely put in whatever he wanted into the show, and that's the reason why it turned out the way that it did. The end result is one of the worst cartoons ever made. I don't like talking about infamous stuff, dead horses and whatever, but Adult Party cartoon genuinely is vile, good god. Apparently there's another Ren and Stimpy reboot that's in the works, and like it got leaked a while back, and it has like no involvement from John K at all. I've heard that this leaked reboot isn't that good either, but I seriously doubt it has anything to do with the fact that John K is not involved. I mean, you know, I wonder why. I wonder why John K is not involved with this Ren and Stimpy reboot, you know? John K seems like a really nice man. I'm sure he likes women that are 18 years and older, you know? What could possibly cause him to not be involved with this reboot? I must wonder.
When a reboot is properly won by the creators, it usually does quite well, and actually delivers true to the vision. But when it doesn't, it's just a floundering attempt to show what was good and unique and cash in on someone else's creation. Let's give it bright, saturated animation to the point where kids get a corneal ulcer. Why not? Kids like colors, right? I feel like everything I'm saying only relates to reboots post-2010, because prior to that, most reiterations weren't like this. Most were better than the originals, and actually kept gritty tones with cool brooding art styles. Now it's just a rainbow contest to see which show is brighter than the rest. Maybe that'll keep the kiddies in their seats a little longer. Let's make all the characters flanderized and dumb while we're at it. Kids connect to dumb people more, right? It also gives us a cheap way of actually creating humor. Stupid people are funny.
Mr. A.S.K, I don't know if you know this, but it's 2024. Of the 3 shows that you use as an example, 2 of them are no longer airing still in 2024, and the one show that is still going on to this day is nowhere near as popular as it was back in the mid to late 2010s. If these 3 shows were still going on and they were massively popular still, then I would understand where you're coming from, but unfortunately that is not the case. Imagine hating on Teen Titans Go in 2024. Like, bro, we know it's bad. Get over it. That's so embarrassing, seriously. It's not 2017 anymore. Get with the times. Hating on Teen Titans Go at this point is just embarrassing, seriously. I regret to inform you all that at no point in the video does he bring up the whole thing of like, oh, Cartoon Network milks Teen Titans Go. They air nothing but Teen Titans Go. You know that whole thing from like 2018 that Cartoon Network doesn't do now anymore? It's a shame that we never got to the Holy Trinity, honestly. Girl doesn't like old movie, Steven Hillenburg didn't want SpongeBob spin-offs, and Cartoon Network milks Teen Titans Go. That's a shame if you ask me. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You know what, just to piss y'all off, I refuse to ever watch Teen Titans 2003. I don't care anymore. Whatever interest I could have had in this show, I've completely lost it because people will not shut up about Teen Titans Go and how bad it is. It's like, we get it, it's bad. Can we move on now, please? It's 2024. No one cares about it anymore. One of the best cartoons ever made, supposedly, and I refuse to watch it because y'all can't behave. Well, that and the fact that I've already been spoiled as to how the show ends, and I know that it has an extremely underwhelming ending. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to watch 5 entire seasons of a show. I'm not going to watch 65 20-minute long episodes of a show just for it to end with a cliffhanger that I already know. Screw that. That seems like a massive waste of time if you ask me. While we're at it, this guy keeps talking about how, oh, everything has to be dumbed down for kids, everything has to be bright and colorful and made stupid for kids and whatever, and it's like, Mr. A.S.K, I don't know if you know this, but in 2024, kids don't watch cartoons anymore. You see, there's this magical thing called brain rot. That's what the kids are into now. It's a very long story. You're on your own when it comes to learning about that. I ain't gonna teach you at all. But that's what kids are watching now instead of cartoons. So all of your points just don't make any sense at all. They just come off as extremely outdated. We live in this f***ed up bizarro world where kids are watching Skibbity Toilet and adults are watching Bluey instead of the other way around. I know, it's weird, but that's 2024 for you. Bro thinks that kids still watch cartoons now in 2024. He doesn't know what brain rot is. He doesn't know anything about Sniper Wolf or Lanky Box or anything like that. My sweet summer child, you have so much to learn.
These modern reboots just go back to square one while ignoring all the story arcs that preceded them, with a cheap-looking animation style and much shallower characters. Then they expect folks to be all on board and excited when they announce one. Don't forget to force memes and trends, disgusting imagery, and weird detailed faces. They'll often dish the grand arcs and storylines for a slice-of-life episodic show, bereft of any substance or long-term stakes. And look, I've made a whole different video explaining how being more mature or focused on story doesn't necessarily make a show better. That video video gives a lot more nuance than I'm frankly giving here, but listen, part of a reboot is a fan service that you inevitably have to deliver to the original fans of the old property. You can't just say you're delivering something new for the current generation while abandoning the people who made your franchise what it is by watching all those years ago. Don't ruin our childhoods for your own creative laziness. It just makes you ask, why? Not to mention how they unnecessarily have to, all of a sudden, change everything about the show. I mean, no one wants to talk about it, but the current bandwagon is the whole race swapping thing they'll have to do with animated characters. April O'Neil, Timmy Turner, Velma, etc.
And there you have it, folks, the reason why this video is so hated. My guy is now complaining about race swapping in modern media. Another complete non-issue that he is going to make a big deal about. My guy doesn't understand that Velma would still be a bad show even if she was white, and that her not being white is not the reason why Velma is bad. Again, as I've mentioned a million times, I've never seen this new Fairly Odd Parents show, but from what I've heard from people that don't like this video, the new girl that the show has is very different from Timmy. She's not just a simple race swap of Timmy, which again I cannot verify because I've yet to watch the show, but I figure I might as well throw that in. Oh, but don't worry guys, it gets even worse as the video goes on. It gets so much worse.
Then there's the whole voice actress thing. Remember when Hank Azaria was shamelessly ousted from playing Apu in The Simpsons because he wasn't the race of the character? Because I do. It's almost like actors are supposed to portray things that they're not. Here's another shocker. This guy is actually not an anthropomorphic sponge. I mean, it's not just Azaria. This happened to Mike Henry too for playing Cleveland Brown. Alison Brie literally apologized for playing Diane from BoJack because the character was Vietnamese. Oh, so if a Vietnamese person has to voice that character and she feels so sorry about it, will she donate all the money she made on that show to Vietnamese charities? Or no, is it just a bunch of false outrage for a non-issue no one genuinely cares about? When everything is racial, that's the only thing I can see when watching. I never saw Blade as a black character, or Cyborg, or Gerald, or Static Shock. A lot of my favorite characters are people of various ethnicities and racial tones. The black female Timmy Turner is clearly just a cheap attempt to reboot this property without any other significant pitches for change.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack over here. So according to this guy, if a character is established to be black from the very beginning, then he doesn't pay much attention to their race. He doesn't see them as black characters, whatever the hell that means. He doesn't consider Blade to be a black character because he's established to be black from the start. There's no such thing as a white version of Blade or anything like that. On the other hand, if you have a character that's race swapped, as he calls it, that's the only thing you could focus on. The fact that the character is now a different race. I don't know, it's the most stupid f***ing logic I've ever heard in my life. Good God. This is a special kind of racism I've never seen before in my life. Goodness gracious. Also putting in characters that are like, oh no, I'm not racist. Some of my favorite characters are from different races. Yeah, okay, what race is Mr. Krabs supposed to be? For a split second after that part, he puts in a character from the Boondocks, and I have to confess something. I've never seen the Boondocks, but I've read, like, again, going off of what other people have said about this video, this character is supposed to be, like, a negative, like, stereotype, for lack of a better word, towards black people. I don't know. But this isn't exactly like, oh yeah, this is the best black character in a show or anything like that. Yeah, now you're starting to see why people hate this video.
I mean, for the diversity folks, there must be a point where this hurts the cause more than it helps it. And this video isn't just about the new race swapping phenomenon, but it's an extremely prevalent symptom of a larger issue, which ties into the lack of respect for staying faithful to the original property. Maybe Butch Hartman wants Timmy to be race and gender swapped, which is why he has absolutely no direct involvement in the creative department of the project. I find that unlikely. It's absolutely insulting to ruin a person's original vision of a character just because people want to see themselves on screen.
There are tons of different examples you could have used to help make your point more credible, to help make people agree with what you're trying to say, or at the very least understand where you're coming from, and you decide to go with Butch Hartman and the Fairly Odd Parents as your example. Buddy, I don't know if you know this, but Butch Hartman kind of ruined his own show as it went on. The first 5 seasons of the original show are classics, there's no denying that at all. And then you move on to the poof era, which is like season 6 to season 7, and it's not bad necessarily, the poof era, but there is a very noticeable downgrade in quality when compared to the first 5 seasons. And then moving on to seasons 8 to 10, that's when you start getting Sparky and Chloe and all these other new characters, and it's like, by that point the show was just a shell of its former self. You try and watch an episode from like season 10 and you compare it to a season 2 or season 3 episode, and it's like, it's so depressing looking at what the show became. And then you get stuff like the early 2010s live action film trilogy, you get that really extremely short-lived live action show from a few years ago. Seriously, what the hell was up with this show? And it's like, Butch Hartman ruined the show himself. And this new show, I've heard, is apparently really good. Again, I cannot personally verify that because, you know, I've already said it a million times, but I've seen people say that this is the best that the show has been in a very long time. Even if this new show doesn't hold a candle to the classic seasons of the original show, people generally agree that it is the first good thing to come out of the Fairly Odd Parents in a very long time. And even if I watch this show and for whatever reason I don't like it, I don't think it's that good, I mean, it can't be worse than the live action trilogy, can it? It cannot be worse than season 10. I'm sure maybe you were trying to make a good point here where it's like, oh, these reboots could be disrespectful to the original creator's vision, you know? Maybe you could have used a better example to help people agree with you what you're trying to say. I mean, it's not going to be enough to save the video, of course. People are still going to dislike this video because of the racism in it. But you really could have used a better example for this to help, you know, maybe have people agree with what you're trying to say. And that's not even getting into the whole thing that, like, Butch Hartman isn't exactly a very good person. I mean, as far as Nickelodeon creators go, Butch Hartman is a saint, but, like, you know, he's not an amazing person either. Let's not forget about that whole religion cures autism thing that he genuinely believed in a few years ago.
These people are too uncreative to create their own original stories, so they need to ruin existing stuff to be able to call themselves inclusive and hip with the times. This absolutely also hinders the story and episode quality, as the main selling point here is the obvious element that's right in front of us, but no one's allowed to acknowledge it for some reason. I mean, watch a single episode of Rise, A New Wish, Patrick Star, or Camp Coral, and you'll see that. Even those shows are unfaithful to the source material. It's not just about the race swapping issue. Being unfaithful has different forms, and the reason I focus on that issue is because it's the most prevalent at this point in time.
Again, the girl in this new Fairly Odd Parents show is supposedly a very different character from Timmy, and it's not just because, oh, she's a black girl. No, it's like, she's very different personality-wise compared to Timmy, from what I've heard. This makes me think of that whole meme where it's like, oh, why do you have to make this already existing, established character black? Why couldn't you just make a new black character from the ground up? And then they do exactly that, and now people are like, no, that's not what I want, that's bad, woke, how dare you? It's like, make it make sense, bro, seriously, you can't have it both ways. I love how he includes Ren and Stimpy's adult party cartoon as an example of an unfaithful reboot, because, Ren and Stimpy's adult party cartoon is garbage, of course, but I don't know if I would call it unfaithful necessarily. It's like, it's neither unfaithful nor faithful to the original Ren and Stimpy, because as I mentioned before, John K. had limitations as to what he could put into the original Ren and Stimpy show on Nickelodeon, and so when he made adult party cartoon, he didn't have those regulations, he didn't have those limitations, he was free to put whatever he wanted into this show. This was what he wanted Ren and Stimpy to be, without having to worry about that pesky Nickelodeon toning everything down. And the end result is one of the worst cartoons ever made. A show that is weirdly neither faithful nor unfaithful to the original Ren and Stimpy, if that makes sense.
Maybe 10 years ago, the discussion was about a completely different form of unfaithfulness. Still, some shows suffer from that. I mentioned SpongeBob, there are plenty of other examples. I just despise seeing a person's work be disrespected when they likely sacrificed like hell to turn into a reality. And some studio exec can just demand a reboot of it for ratings, and completely change the original character into something just to appeal to the bandwagon. In live action, you could claim that the actor's audition and skill level determine who gets the role, and that would be fair, but it's totally different with an animated character made of pixels. Although even that's under question these days when the new Snow White or Ariel can't can't even sing but are preferred over tons of other actors. I don't know. Am I crazy? I feel like I'm living in the Emperor's New Clothes. People just disagree with this because it's the right thing to say or whatever, but most people would probably agree with these common sense points deep down. When a character is good, race shouldn't matter, nor should the new spin you put on the character, whether it's a gimmicky change in the age, the gender, the design more broadly, or their persona and attitude in a larger sense.
I love how my man just unintentionally cooked with what he just said and he doesn't even know it. If a character is good, then their race doesn't matter. Thank you. That's so easy to understand. I fail to see why that should not apply to race-swapped characters. If I made a black Superman, and like, besides the fact that he's black, everything else stays the same, the superpowers stay the same, the weakness stays the same, the backstory stays the same, everything that people love about Superman would still be there. The only difference is that he's black now, and it's not even like a major thing that's brought up, it's just a small minor detail and that's it. It's not a big plot point or anything like that. None of the characters acknowledge it. It's just Superman is black just because. That shouldn't matter as long as Superman is still good. The character is still good. That's all that matters. And then it just makes you question, why the hell is he going on about this racist crap that like, oh, the Fairly Odd Parents has a black girl in it now. How dare they make it woke? It's like, bro, you just contradicted yourself by saying this. If a character is good, then a character is good. That's all that matters.
Even things like the Lion King remake piss me off because they clearly capitalized on this and it worked by turning one of the greatest animated films in the 90s into a National Geographic documentary with the occasional reminder that it is, in fact, a Lion King reboot. When they're more faithful to the source material like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast, it doesn't bother me as much. But I don't think Rob Minkoff and Roger Allers crafted the 94 masterpiece with their own hands just to expect it to get a live-action CG remake when it's pretty much 100% animation, or portraying real animals for some reason. God, it's all so stupid. Anyway, can't wait to see a Static Shock or Spawn movie, and while they're at it, it wouldn't hurt to race swap one more movie, would it? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe, and follow me on all the socials to keep up with my tomfoolery. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you beautiful ladies and jellyfish in the next one.
Well guys, what did we learn from this video? Two things. Number one, this A.S.K guy is racist as hell, and number two, it has become much harder to criticize modern media than it already is thanks to this video. Again, I agree with the notion that like Hollywood is relying too much on reboots and sequels and remakes and whatnot. You know, we just keep getting rehashes of old stuff instead of new original things. I agree with that. But basically everything else said in this video is just, it goes downhill after that. And now it's going to become much harder to criticize the current state of the film industry and the video game industry and whatever because of videos like this. I'm worried that eventually it will get to a point where people will start to defend and support terrible modern movies just to spite these anti-woke weirdos. There are people that are on the completely opposite side of the problem that will give their money to Disney, willingly give their money to Disney to see the Snow White remake for no other reason other than to just piss off the anti-woke weirdos. And that is a thought that greatly depresses me. Yes, video games nowadays do suck. Yes, movies nowadays do suck. No, it has nothing to do with wokeness. And no, criticizing the current state of the video game industry or the film industry does not and should not make you anti-woke automatically. This is exactly the reason why I mostly stick to older media from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, early to mid 2010s. Even the late 2010s I would say had a lot of great stuff in it as well, actually. I think 2018 was the last great year for video games, if I were to be honest. We were eating so good in 2018, and then everything just went downhill the following year. Here's hoping 2025 ends up being a return to form for gaming though. But generally, I just find myself watching older movies and playing older video games because not only are they genuinely better than a lot of modern movies and games, but also because I don't have to deal with the annoying discourse of wokeness and whatever. I don't play old video games because gaming is woke nowadays. I play old video games because I don't want to deal with the annoying motherfuckers who complain about how gaming is woke nowadays. Well, that and the fact that games nowadays genuinely do suck, but again, that has nothing to do with wokeness or anything like that, and criticizing the current state of gaming does not make you anti-woke automatically. I think that games suck nowadays because they're full of glitches and microtransactions, okay? I don't know what the hell Sweet Baby or DEI are. Leave me alone, please. In addition to the fact that this video is racist and that it's gonna further damage any chances of giving valid criticism to modern day media, there's also the fact that it's just extremely outdated. A lot of the points he makes about like, oh, Teen Titans Go is bad, it dumbs down everything for kids, it's like, am I in 2018 again? Or is it 2024? Some of this stuff would probably be a lot more impactful if this video was made in 2018, but in 2024, it's like, what's the point of even saying it? Like, yeah, okay, Powerpuff Girls 2016 is bad. It ended years ago. No one watches it anymore. What the hell's the point in complaining about it nowadays? I love that he includes Velma as an example of an unfaithful reboot because we have like, I don't know, 20 different Scooby-Doo cartoons at this point, and it's like almost all of them are faithful to the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You from 1969. Almost all of them have the same formula as the original show, and that's not even going over the many direct-to-video movies and video games and whatever that are also faithful to Scooby-Doo Where Are You and also have the same formula. So I fail to see why it matters that this one version of the show, this one cartoon decides, nah, I want to be different. I'm not defending Velma or anything like that, but I think the fact that it's wildly different from your average Scooby-Doo cartoon should be seen as a positive and not a negative. Granted, the execution is very poor, don't get me wrong, but I could at least respect it a little bit for just doing its own thing. I find it very telling that the two most hated versions of Scooby-Doo are also the ones that actually dare to do something different with these characters, instead of just having them go through the same formulaic crap that they've been going through since 1969. We already have enough cartoons and movies and whatever that are faithful and follow the formula of the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You? It. It's okay to experiment every once in a while. That's not me defending Velma, but that is me defending Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. Because I'm sorry, but Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue is peak. I don't know what else to tell you. My man just completely ruined his YouTube career with one video just like that. I find it highly unlikely that this guy's gonna bounce back and go back to having a normal career. Anyways, that's about it. I just wanted to make this video talking about something that a lot of other cartoon YouTubers have been talking about, you know, give my own perspective on this video. I don't intend to make videos like this in the future. This is most likely going to be a one-off thing and that's it. But you know, it's something different for the channel, I'd say. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing as it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Adios.